What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Halftime Snacks podcast. This show features short interviews that you can listen during the halftime of your favorite sports events. Every Tuesday, I host fun conversations with talented people in the sports industry, where we'll learn from their stories, knowledge, and experiences. So go grab your favorite snack and come snack with us. Are you ready? Let's go! Joining us now is a former professional baseball player who played for the St. Louis Cardinals in the minor league for 3 years. Today, he devotes his life to something a bit different than sports, and that is cybersecurity. He's the CEO of Valor, which is a team of cybersecurity experts that helps sports and entertainment organizations tackle their most challenging cybersecurity risks. They deal with things like cyber threats, privacy and security, workforce shortages, compliance, and other complex implementations. Besides that, he also recently published a book called Growing Into You, where he shares some of the lessons he's had on his career so far. And I am so excited to be able to host him today. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce Greg Tomchick. Greg, welcome to the Halftime Snacks, mate. How are you?
Ronan, thanks for having me. Really glad to be here. Looking forward to enjoying a halftime snack with you. Let's dive in.
Yeah, let's do it. We always kick it off with a fun icebreaker, Greg. So the one I have for you, given your background in baseball, I want to ask you, what's your favorite baseball movie of all times?
Ooh, I think Field of Dreams. They're actually developing a new Field of Dreams complex where the movie was shot. Definitely just one of those movies that tugs on the heart and makes you kind of reimagine the passion you have for the game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great movie. Recommend it out there for anyone listening that haven't checked it out. Go check it out. It's a great movie, Greg. Okay, let's talk about your book. Okay, you went ahead and during the pandemic published this book. Where did the idea for the book came from?
Yeah, so just a little bit of background. So military born, was able to travel around the country, meet some incredible people. Throughout that journey, really had the upbringing to leave things a little bit better than I found it. That was a big military principle. You know, you walk into a room, you clean up after yourself, things of that nature. Early on in my career, when I was, in high school, I realized the people that were making the biggest impact were the folks that were able to put their knowledge either down on paper or go talk about what they were passionate about so that other people could be educated on the knowledge that they had through their experiences. So while I was playing minor league baseball, I actually met one of my host family's sons was kind of interested in personal growth, just like I was. Eventually, we decided to write letters back and forth to each other on valuable lessons we learned through sports and business. We put those into a book called Growing Into You in a format of letter, way that you can apply the letter, and then exercises that you can use to continually enhance that skill, whether it's persistence or failure fitness, or being able to learn from the experiences that you have and extract the valuable knowledge that comes from it. So that's a little bit of background on it, but kind of by accident became an author. We were able to sell thousands of copies of the book. So I'd encourage anybody out there, everybody has unique experiences, put it on paper. If you want to publish it, great. If not, give it to your family and share the expertise.
And how was like the whole writing process? Was that just like letters casually just putting them together, or was there like a process of writing down like chapters and specific stories that you'd like to share on the book?
Yeah, it all started off the cuff. We were just kind of writing letters back and forth to educate each other on the perspectives where we were coming from. And then we had somebody say, you should put these letters into a book. And we kind of started to formalize it, went through the process chapter by chapter, and it became what it is today.
That's awesome. And what we were speaking about right before the call is that you have this very specific combination of things that you did or that you do. Right, you played professional sports, and then you work now at Cyber, and also you became an author. So it's pretty unique. I could probably count with one hand the number of people out there in the world that have that set of experiences. So maybe I want to focus now on the playing sports and cyber. I want to see if you can maybe find a couple of intersections, things that are similar between both of the experiences. Lessons maybe that you want to maybe share that you maybe saw in sports and also saw on cyber, or that you think are useful for both worlds?
Absolutely. So when I was coming out of baseball, I was always thinking, just like most people getting out of sports, what's next and how can I use what I've done to get where I want to go? A couple of big lessons that come to mind, the team mentality. So it all comes down to the people. The people are the ones who make stuff happen. Perseverance, the will to be able to do things. As a baseball player, I was a pitcher, so I was always trying to improve my pitches. When you come into cyber, you come into the business world, you're always trying to find that next thing that you can do to improve. And then just the prioritization piece. When I was, as a pitcher, there's so many pitches I wanted to learn when I watched the big league folks play the game, but I had to prioritize, what my profile as a pitcher was and what I could do to kind of improve myself, but also know what others were good at. So everybody kind of has their own competency. I knew what I was good at, and I had to take that into a world like cyber and say, I'm really good at translating technical knowledge. This is really what I want to do in a relatively technical space that business folks and leaders really need to understand in today and tomorrow's world.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my following question. Like, how exactly did you get into cyber? Was that something of sort of a passion growing up? You started seeing like all these computers and you got so excited about Microsoft and Apple and Linux and all these like OS systems and everything, and then you were like, okay, this is what I gotta focus on? Or was that something more of like a process that built up maybe towards your career in baseball and reading about trends and stuff, that you started to get more interested in that?
Yeah, you definitely hit on the traditional route. Most folks come from more of a technical background in this space. I was actually running a team of software developers. We had a cyber attack at the company I was running. I realized as a leader of that organization that other leaders needed to understand this stuff from somebody who spoke their language in order to have a chance to defend themselves against a similar type of incident or attack. So I took that into, my initial break into cybersecurity as I was a business owner. I had this happen to me. I'd love to use the expertise I've gathered over the last couple of years to put you in a better position than you're in now, to be able to protect yourself from these evolving digital risks.
Yeah, that's an amazing mission in a way. That's you speak it very well. And let's be honest here. I know nothing or close to nothing about cyber, so you're gonna have to give us maybe, maybe listeners as well don't know anything like me. Maybe there are a couple of more more technical or advanced people that do know. But let's bring it back to basics. Let's take it back to fundamentals. Give us a quick overview of how people should think about the cyber sec and that's digital space that is just feels so dark and so unknown. What is like an overview going back to like fundamentals and basic things of how people should think about these things?
Yeah, so when I think about cyber from really the highest level, and then we'll drill a layer deeper. So cyber means the connected ecosystem, right? So any company, team, organization has people that they depend on, right? And those people carry out processes to deliver the valuable products and service at the end of the day. Technology over the past 20, 30 years has become a key piece to make that more efficient, to bring data to inform those people on how to do their job potentially better. So it's really the ecosystem of people, process, and technologies that's all glued together in every organization nowadays. And the technologies that come into play all have vulnerabilities, right? They can be taken offline by the right person, manipulating it or locking up certain systems. So basically, all these companies have digitally transformed. They don't realize exactly how far they've transformed. And there's gaps within each of those systems that they don't see at the moment, that the hacker or the criminal, the cyber criminal that they're talking about nowadays can see. And it gives them the opportunity to make money, right? It's all about money and data. So when we talk about sports, sports comes down to the money they spend on assets and then the data they have on those players and fans to be able to improve their experience and kind of make the organization more valuable. So that's what it looks like from a high level, willing to go down any path that you see fit.
Yeah, I feel like this, I mean, not sure how long you think this has became like something trendy and important to talk about. I just remember maybe from last year, that I started seeing it more and more. Not sure if you remember the pipeline which was attacked. I think it's called ransomware or some word like that. That they basically attack this like pipeline, and then they lock it. They lock the systems, and so it works like it's a bounty pay that you have to like just pay an amount to the hackers so that they free the whole like system. So how long do you think this topic and this whole like space has started to become like something relevant to have like everywhere, not only like on the like technical side, but in places like sports as well? Like, how long ago do you think this started to become like important?
Yeah, I think 5-10 years ago, it really started to become important at the business level. The governments, in the different countries have obviously thought about it and saw it as a risk. I'd probably say the past 5 years, it's really become a board level type agenda item where they're talking about it, they're thinking about it, they're pushing those concepts onto their team. Web 2.0 kind of brought it up, but when you start talking about Web 3.0, cryptocurrencies, blockchain, these different advanced, the metaverse, these different technologies are going to start making it more and more prevalent. So it's kind of, the engines are starting to roar, but they're going to get even stronger going forward.
Well, but definitely we don't want to get anyone here scared, right? So,
Right.
so
Yeah.
maybe there's this team owner listening, or Mark Cuban's listening here. Of course, LeBron James is listening here to the halftime snacks. Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi. We have all these people listening here. We don't want to we don't want to get these people very scared, right? We wanna make them understand what threats they might be exposed to. Fans, sports organizations, players, business owners, ticket holders. I don't know, like all the stakeholders in the sports industry want to know a little bit more or less what threats are they exposed to so far right now.
Yeah, I think everybody depends on a supply chain. So we look at cybersecurity as a supply chain, right? So if you look at a player or you look at a team, those organizations depend on something to operate, right? Like you depend on Zoom and the software that you're recording through. These teams depend on systems, technologies, tools to operate, right? And a player, even like athletes.io with Tom Brady starting his own company, they're going to depend on a blockchain provider in order to make these keepsakes be able to be exchanged in a game, for them to be able to capture reels in real time and upload them to a system. So there's a lot of dependencies, and at those dependencies, if that system's taken down, your operation or your marketing effort as a player, may be disrupted, right? So you don't want to lose out on valuable time. Time's our most valuable asset.
Yeah. Would you argue that time is way more valuable than data today?
Right. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, if you could have the data to make time more useful, but time at the end of the day, I think is going to be the most valuable asset for any of us.
It's all about like saving time or protecting time in ways that
exactly
we engage, or the way that things are connected nowadays. We just want to protect time from being a hassle later in terms of something or a cyber attack just coming along and preventing us from having that time.
Exactly. Yeah, you're protecting time, money, data, but in that order, right? Time, money, data when it comes to cyber.
Oh, I love that framework. And let's say I'm a director of a sports company, let's say apparel, right? I run my businesses, and I have e-commerce, I have online store, and I also have a physical store. So all my like accounting happens online. How should someone like that start thinking about their digital protection? Because I think that maybe the complex element here is that people don't really know what to do, given that they already know what type of threats are out there. How should these directors think about like digital protection in a first, let's say, in a 1, 2, 3 steps?
Yeah. So when we come in, the main things we focus on, or we encourage folks to focus on when we're talking to anybody out in the industry, is understand how you're connected, right? What systems does Ronan depend on to operate on a daily basis? Does executive XYZ depend on to operate?
Yeah, is that the supply chain that you were talking about?
Yep. So the hierarchy, what do you depend on? And if that's taken down, what are you going to do? What's your plan to respond if that's just if AWS goes out and your whole data warehouse that all your analytics are on is on there, and you need that data to play the next game, most effectively. You got to have a backup plan in place, and a lot of times that's the conversation we have is let's put our heads together, or your team can go out and document a response plan, and you're actually that much better off than the next team, right? What if Chelsea is going into FC Barcelona, and all of a sudden the stadium's inoperable, right? Because somebody from the other team wanted to take out the stadium. It's a possibility. It's happened before. We've seen teams be taken by ransomware, like you said. So it's relevant. It's a conversation that needs to be had as at least a starting point.
So of course it's something about like figuring out what the supply chain of all these systems is, but also like think about how valuable each chain is for your business and for your operations. Like if there's something that you can probably not rely on for running a football game, maybe that's less of your priority. You mean like figure out what's the supply chain, and then also figure out the priorities of how those different chains really influence your business and your operations. What kind of useful tools are out there to determine, detect, or even protect the systems? Are there like tools that you recommend everyone to first of all check out, and then once they understand like more of their supply chain, or more of like what are their most vulnerable pieces of their chain, then they can react and do something about it? Or they're not really exactly tools out there, and it's more like people and experts like what you guys do, Valor, that is what people should think about, not really tools but people?
Yeah, I think tools play an important role in the discovery of what you have, because you can scan your network. But at the end of the day, the tool is only as good as the strategy to put that tool in place. So we try to encourage the conversation and the education before putting a tool in place. But there are great tools, Bit Discovery. There's a lot of other tools out there that will help you discover your assets so that you can start labeling the criticality of them. But we always encourage, you don't put tools in an environment until you're ready and your folks are educated on what the actual threat is, and then a tool can be effective in the environment.
Yeah, and you were talking a lot about before we started recording about the education side of things, right? That you guys create content in order to get people more aware about all these like things and issues, and that they actually need people to figure out where their most vulnerabilities and most of their weaknesses in their chain. But what are other things that you guys are doing besides content to bring up more of this awareness in the field and in sports, to help everyone realize that this is actually a need?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a podcast called the 5-Minute Cyber Update that we just released. We're coming out with the Digital Pathfinder Award in professional sports. So it's really going to be leaders in this space that are leading the way when it comes to cyber and digital transformation, just recognizing those folks who are leaning in just a little bit more. We also supply what we call the Valor Visibility Dashboard on our professional sports landing page on our website, which really says, hey, you're owner of a professional team or you're involved with professional sports. Here are the specific risks relevant to you and what you guys should be doing today to address those risks. And then we put relevant news up there as well, just to kind of inform people of what's going on in the space at the intersection of cybersecurity and professional sports.
Nice. And do you think that all organizations lie at the same category in terms of the need for assistance? Do you think that there's of course, thinking about like more with like a more of a global mindset, of course, like bigger organizations or organizations that rely more on like events or specific moments of their business life, or where their revenues come from. Maybe those are the most critically weak or again vulnerable for cyber attacks. But do you think that is there a way to categorize the different types of companies, particularly in sports, that could need assistance? Like, if let's say if I'm just a manufacturer of the cloth needed to create the uniforms, maybe it's not really for me. But is there a category that or a set of categories that you can help us think about when we think about like who needs this service?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think it's like a doctor. Everybody needs it at a different level based off of how quickly they're digitally transforming. Obviously, every company is trying to digitally transform as fast as they can, and they're trying to develop the coolest technologies. We mainly approach it with three audiences. So we have front office leaders, the folks who are running the operations of these teams. We have private equity companies who invest in these sports teams. And then we have the critical vendors that support sports teams. Since we look at it from a supply chain standpoint, we try to serve those three audiences to say, if you do your part when it comes to cybersecurity, you'll help secure the entire supply chain at the end of the day. So those are the folks we focus on. Everybody has their own issues from a company standpoint. No company is created equal. One size does not fit all. That's what makes cybersecurity and the cyber world so complex, and a lot of people turn a blind eye to it, but we're here to support and help kind of bridge the gap, as folks go forward and continually digitally transform.
Yeah, I love the metaphor on the doctor. You're right. This is the digital doctor. And as I was saying before, like I think that this is something so new. Like I've been writing content in sports and tech for 2 years, and I haven't really came across a company that is focused on this like specific niche. Like you guys are the first one. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see how you guys are gonna grow, how you guys are gonna treat and educate the market and the people out there. I'm sure that many of the listeners are gonna be very intrigued. They're gonna want to learn more about you guys. So I do encourage you all to check out what Greg and his team are doing at Valor. Man, this has been amazing. This has been such a good conversation, and I think that I've been personally learning a lot with what you've been explaining and all the insights. Man, that I feel like we're gonna have to need another halftime snacks to go over more of the questions. And of course, as the industry grows, and of course as new companies come along, and new technologies like you were mentioning, blockchain and NFTs and crypto are gonna need more and more of that. So I'm excited to really see how you guys are gonna grow, and I'm looking forward to it. Greg, before we leave, I always wrap the conversations up with a personal question, and the one I have for you is actually a pretty simple one. What is the best day? What has been the best day of your life?
I think best day of my life. My son was born 2 years, July this year. So just an amazing moment to see create life and be able to shape and kind of influence somebody from that level. I think it changes your perspective on waking up, putting your feet on the ground, and chugging along to make the world a better place in your own way.
Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy learning about the business and technology behind sports, make sure you subscribe to the Sports Tech Biz newsletter. I'll leave the link in the show notes. See you all next week. Bye-bye.